would lose control, made me feel like there was no tomorrow. Should've told you that you're beautiful, but the days pass and now it's so long ago. Did you make it? Did you break free? Did you manage to be who you wanna be? Maybe somewhere you think about me too. I wonder where are you now? Wonder where are you now? Wonder where are you now? Would you know my name? Would you know it? And did you feel the same? Wonder where are you now?
I thought I put myself on the screen already. I was too busy fixing my weave. How's everybody doing out there? Here we are, bathrobe moments after dark. Okay, it's still got a little sunlight outside, but we're gonna give it that after dark ambience. I'm your host, Loren Michaels Harris, and I trade in the morning show bathrobe, the soft and fuzzy one, in the coffee cup. I trade in the bathrobe for this knockoff. Um, you know what it is, Versace robe, and then I trade in my coffee cup for a wine glass. Sure do. I'm so glad you guys are here. This is where we kind of wind down your day, but still leveling up your game. Okay, let me say that one more time for you. Wind down your day while still leveling up your game. And so I bring in people who are doing big, big things, taking a challenge, taking a big bite out of the apple called life. And tonight is no exception. Tonight we have Tone Fernandez. If you watch the morning show, you may have seen him a few weeks ago, also known as Anthony Fernandez. But for those in the know, he's Tone Fernandez. And he's going to be here tonight talking about a whole bunch of good stuff. Now, I want to talk about some of the stuff you saw right now when we were coming in. First of all, on the show opener, those lips, though. Did you see those lips? Those red lips all. You know how many takes it took me to get that right? I'm kidding. Those aren't my lips. But they were nice, right? Nice and juicy. So that's after dark. We get to talk like that. Also, if you notice, there was a promo for something called the Slave Project. That is an event of peaceful protest in Salt Lake City, Utah, to bring awareness to the trafficking problem in this country, pandemic in this world, if you will. There's another one going on. And I will be going to Salt Lake City on the 15th to take part in that protest, where we're bringing awareness and talking to the families of missing children, people that have been rescued, just the whole gamut. And I'm so excited to go. Thank you, Anton J, for sponsoring that, and my good friend Jason Cisneros. If you'd like more information on what you can do to help solve this problem, just get at me. I'll be happy to connect you with the powers that be. That's the Slave Project, Salt Lake City, Utah, 7 p.m. on the 15th, on next Saturday. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. I know that he's here because there were a whole bunch of cars going down my street, those ones that, you know, bounce up and down, and classic cars, and people were hooping and hollering and having a good time. So I know Tone Fernandez is here. Has anybody found him yet?
Hey, 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 hey.
Uh-huh, you brought your car club with you tonight. I saw them all.
We have to roll deep, man.
Yeah, you do. I know, when you come out to the suburbs, you better have your stuff in order because, we don't play out here. How are you, Tone?
Oh, fantastic, man. I appreciate you having me. I'm just having a great day and I feel good. I'm glad to be on here.
You look good.
Thank you.
Yeah. You said to me earlier in the green room that you had taken quite a long bike ride today. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I have herniated discs, so I can't do the running and the jumping like everybody else. So I just got a bike a few weeks ago and I rode all the way from Logan Square on the north side of Chicago all the way to Navy Pier and back. So it's about seven
Oh,
miles there, about 7 miles back. Yeah.
by yourself?
Yep, just by myself with my headphones on and my bike. It felt good.
Did you have a helmet on?
I do not wear a helmet, no.
They don't make them. They don't make them that big for that head, do they?
Man,
I'll just play.
it's a problem I always had.
Yeah. I didn't mean to trick you. Did they used to tease you about your hair?
Oh man,
Why?
I got big head.
You do? Did you have trouble buying hats?
No, it's not that big. Like it's not. Yeah, it's not
Because
a.
I do, and my head don't look half as big as never mind. Let's change subject. I mean, I do. I have like 40 hats underneath here in my prop room, which is under my desk. Um,
Gotcha.
so do you like to wear hats?
You know what? I honestly, my whole life I never did, but over the last few years, I started wearing baseball caps. So I wear a baseball cap every now and then,
Okay.
especially when
Hey,
I don't have a haircut.
okay. Which during COVID was hard for a minute there, wasn't it?
Yep, it was
So
hard.
tell everybody who you are, where you live, what you're doing, and what it is you feel you're doing to change this world and be of service to others. Tell us about
Yeah,
yourself.
so I'm an entrepreneur. I run a financial services agency, and me and my significant other run that together. And then I run a social media lead generation business as well, teaching people how to generate leads online. I've been
Mm,
doing that 5 years. My passion has always been entrepreneurship, sales, personal development. And what I realized through that process of growing as an entrepreneur was I wanted to give back to the community. And I struggled for a while to figure out how, but then I thought about, okay, what's going on in your backyard? And I said, there's a
mm,
lot of violence. There's a
mm,
lot of gang violence. You dealt with it your whole life. Why not
mm,
address that somehow with entrepreneurship? So how I
mm.
change the world is just teach people entrepreneurship, and then as I grow, I'm targeting the youth, so that they can be distracted by something positive like entrepreneurship. Get away from hanging out in the streets, get away from the
Yeah.
negative influences. So that's my impact on the world.
Great. I'm ringing the bell now. For those of you who've never been here, or you finally came out of underneath that rock where you've been, this is the Bell of Purpose. It's new to Bathrobe Moments, day and evening, for season 4. And what this is, it's really more than just a bell. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for all of you, all of us, to be a part of something greater than ourselves. When I ring that bell, it means that our guest has said something that you need to stop right in the middle of traffic, look in all directions, and make sure you get it. Don't leave it. Drop off something if you have to, but make room to pick this up because he's given it in spades. He's given us platinum nuggets tonight. Here on Bathrobe Moments, we don't believe in 0-calorie content, which means you're going to leave here fattened up if it's the last thing we do. That's the bell of purpose. So
Woo.
throw some hearts on the screen when you hear it. Say amen, hallelujah, whatever you want to do. Hercules, Hercules, whatever. Just get behind it and let our guests know. We appreciate him tonight. So tell me something.
Yes.
Now, I find it very interesting that you say you can teach people entrepreneurship. A lot of people believe that entrepreneurship is a mindset, that it's like makes you a different kind of species, if you will. Talk about that. How do you unleash, unlock, connect people to the possibility of them being an entrepreneur? Can we all be one if we want to?
Absolutely. I think that we've been programmed to society to follow a specific career path. And it's not necessarily the wrong path for everybody. But what happens is a lot of us don't realize that we have an entrepreneur in us. I
Ooh,
always tell people
sleeping, huh?
it's in there and we use it, but we don't know it. Like I always ask people, how did you get your significant other? You sold yourself, right? You're an entrepreneur. How did when we started when we were kids, always asking our parents, trying to convince them to get our way. That was entrepreneurship, that was sales. So
Mm,
what I like to do is I like to just address like what, that first phase. Like, why don't you believe you can be an entrepreneur? What is it? And it's just, I address a lot of limiting beliefs, or a lot of things that people think and that was actually wrong. Like, people think they have to leave their job to be an entrepreneur. No, you could do it part-time on the side. A lot of people think that they don't have what it takes, that it's all about sales. And I just address those limiting beliefs at the beginning. And then this phase two, we just show them how to do it. We show them how to get from just starting a brand, starting a business, to getting your first client, and then going from there. So I think that, a lot of people at the beginning, they need somebody just to hold their hand for a little bit, just to help them along the way, just to know that it's going to be okay, especially somebody who's been there, who's been through that first phase, which is
Sure.
sometimes the toughest. So to answer your question, everybody has it in them. It's just unleashing that
It's
ability, and
unleashing it.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
getting it out of you.
That's what I love about kids. A lemonade stand, a newspaper route. Those are all entrepreneurial spirits right there. That
Yep.
is what that is. And I remember, I know people. I knew because well, I'll tell you this story real quick. I did at 8. I think it was 8. I got the newspaper route. Stupid move to get a newspaper route in November.
Woo.
Okay, because my mom was hardly using up her gas to drive me around to drop off, especially on Sunday. Now
Yeah.
they dropped those papers off at like 4 in the morning, and
Yes.
there was all those inserts and stuff. You got to stuff in them, and I put them on my sled. That career lasted 2 days, Saturday and then Sunday when I dumped all those papers in the Kroger's dumpster behind there, and right around noon, our phone started ringing.
Like,
People were
hey,
like, I found out you don't mess with people's Sunday paper. You can do anything else. Just don't mess with that Sunday paper. And stupid me, I should have kept up with it at least until the next couple of weeks. They started when you collect it, they give you all the Christmas money. Well, I
yeah,
didn't get anything. And
give
then
it
my
away.
mom made me go knock on every person's door and apologize. And oh, it was horrible. But in the next year, I started my own business where in 1 year, believe it or not, at 10 years old, I made $10,000. I
What?
really did. And that was being a Shackley distributor. It was what we call spices and things like that. And what
Wow.
I did was I enlisted my little nieces and stuff, and we had our own bake sale company. And we'd go knock on doors and offer people mini samples. And when they get them, and they'd say, "Oh, those maple muffins, what's your secret?" I said, "Well, if you really want to know, let me come by and show you my line of spices." And that's how it worked. And I had all the women in the neighborhood and the adjoining neighborhoods buying my spices and all the other Shackley products. And I was bitten because I did try at 16 to go to work at McDonald's. That lasted not even one shift. I didn't even get the free meal. The free meal, you got to
Yeah,
work
yeah.
four
What are you
hours to
doing?
get that
Yeah.
free meal. I was like, when they fired me, said you could punch out. I was like, do I still get my big meal? There's my Big Mac meal. They're like, oh no.
Nah, get
Bye.
out of here.
But that
Security.
was, Tone, I'm gonna be honest with you. I knew the minute they put me in that scratchy ass, rust colored polyester suit, and then back then you wore a paper hat.
Oh, yes.
I wasn't hardly going out front and policing nobody's. I just wasn't doing it. I got fired. So, but it unleashed in me. I didn't know at the time, and that was I don't want to build. I don't want to spend my life building someone else's dream. I'd
Amen.
rather pour myself into building my own. So, tell me, when you first step in front of a group full of kids and you're trying to explain to them that we all have a sleeping entrepreneur, if you will, within, how do you open the door to that? How do you convince them? Because a lot of kids need an example of what can be. And if they don't have that in their own family, how do you get them to understand that it can be them?
Well, honestly, when I get in front of kids, there's no convincing, because nowadays the millennials and the younger kids, they can sense when you have an agenda, trying to convince them.
Mm,
It's just by asking questions. Hey guys, what are some ideas of things that you wanted to do? And what happens is they start pouring out these ideas, and we then question, well, why haven't you done it, right?
hmm hmm
And then I use examples. I say, hey, there's a 14-year-old kid,
hmm
Caleb Maddox, who made that.
Caleb, I know Caleb.
Yeah, and I always use him as an example. Hey, he just made a few $1 million. He runs a business online using YouTube. And
Do
what
you
ended up
know Caleb?
I know of him. I don't know him
Oh, I
personally,
need to
but
connect you with him.
yes, yes.
Caleb is a great kid.
Yeah.
Yes, he
So he's
is.
a
His
perfect
dad's
example. I
behind it,
like
but
using him, somebody who actually did it. And once I ask the questions of what some ideas brewing in their head, show them some examples, and then I say, I start helping them formulate that plan in their head. So, what are some things that you're going to need? And then what ends up happening is at the end of the conversation, and they think everything was their idea. So then I wasn't putting
Mm.
information in their head. They came up with it themselves.
Ah,
So I was like, what would be the
nice.
first step? All right. And everybody starts answering questions. Hey, come up with a name. Great idea. Come up with a name. What's step number two? And then what happens is we write that on the board. I've done it in schools. I've done it in community rec centers and things like that.
Got it.
But it's just fun because they already have it in them. Like I told you, they just need somebody to help them express that idea.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. You and I are very similar. I do a thing called the Power of We Symposium, and you're going to be a part of the next one, remember?
Yep, I
And
will.
right, and it's true. When you really sit down and you have a heart to heart, knee to knee, elbow to elbow conversation with these kids, you find out a lot more than you would have ever expected. That they are brilliant. So let me ask this: there is a battle out there for our kids,
Yep.
and there's sex trafficking. You saw the Slave Free Project
Yes.
promo that was there. There's that. There's drugs. There's gangs. There's all these things. Now, when we were doing we were about to film the promo video for the very first Power We Symposium. It's on our website. And then if you go over, I really encourage you guys to get over to powerofwesymposium.com and take a look at that video. Those are all kids from at-risk areas of the inner city west and south sides of Chicago. And none of them had ever acted or been filmed outside of their own device. Now, I found it was just one of those things. In that video, you'll see parked right outside the gates of the school is a hearse. And I was like, what's that hearse doing? Is that a funeral home around here? A church? So they said, no. But once a week, that hearse comes and sits in front of our school all day long. Like someone drops it off, gets out of the hearse, leaves it there until after school, then comes back and picks it up.
Wow.
Nobody knows what it was just crazy. And so anyway, I started talking to these kids, and when we went to show, this is what broke my heart. When we went to show them the finished product, we took pizza and wings. They got to choose what they wanted. We put it up on the big screen in their auditorium. They watched it. They went crazy. And then I had them write down what is your greatest dream for this summer? And most of them, there were 12 kids, and most of them said at the end of the summer, because this was Rush, the feeder school for Rush,
Okay.
Rush Medical. So
Yes.
it's a medical prep school. Yeah. And so all these kids were headed, they all had full rides to Ivy League schools, every single one of them. And they said, my biggest fear, my biggest joy is that I'm looking forward to finding out who my roommate's going to be at college, going to shop at Target for my room, stuff like that. I said, now write down anonymously, what's your greatest fear for the summer? And do you know what 9 out of 10 of them said? That something will happen during the summer that will cost me my life and I won't be able to pursue my dreams any further.
Wow.
Right. It's still just it really it really messes with me. I almost used the F word. It really does. And that's no kid should be afraid of dying over the summer. And it's
Yeah.
not just our at-risk kids in the inner city. There are Caucasian kids that live in rural areas. I've spoken where there have been school shootings. 2 years ago, there were
Yeah.
26 school shootings in the United States, all in rural areas. School shootings, none of them happened in the inner city. They all happened out there with white kids. And those kids are afraid too. They're afraid instead of making it through the summer, they're afraid they won't make it through school day. And that's not right for any child. So tell me something. And I always think this when I see all the stuff on the sides of the streets, the gang members, the prostitutes, the pimps, all the things that are trying to grab our kids. I see that they're hackers, hacking their wares, and they don't
Yep.
take holidays off. They don't take weekends off. They don't shut down at 5 o'clock and go home. They're out there trying to get every kid they can every minute of every day. So we need to fight just as hard, if not harder, to keep our kids safe. And that's why I love what you're doing and people like you. So tell me how you get in front of these kids. Where do you find them? You go to schools, you go to boys and girls clubs. They meet it at what? How do you do it? Where do you meet them?
Right now, I connect with the community leaders who already have existing programs. Connected with some, I connect with leaders of communities, and then through them, I find out where the programs are at, and then I volunteer my time, and I say, hey, if they need somebody to come talk to them, I'm always down. So, especially towards the end of the school year, I get invited a lot to come to schools, recreation centers, community centers, libraries. You'll be surprised some of these places, and that's where I go speak. And the reason I love doing it is, once watched a video online and I saw that a lot of these speakers who come to the schools are very like, I guess you could say, kind of in a way condescending. They're speaking
Okay,
down.
hold on. I'm one of those speakers.
No, yeah. You
I know
probably
what you
talk
mean,
a
though.
lot like me,
I
but a
know
lot
what
of
you
them
mean.
just kind of drilling kids with
They
like,
speak. They speak at the kids
yeah, that's what
instead
I
of
was.
speaking with them. It's a conversation, and I get it. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so I
You're
just wanted to
absolutely go on.
be different, and then when I did that, first few events, first few places, I got requested back, and then I got referred here, and then I got referred there. So that's how I started to get into these classrooms, into these places. It's just by volunteering and then getting referred by different teachers. It's funny how
Yeah.
it starts to grow just once you put it out there in the universe.
What kind of thing do you hear reoccurring? What's the reoccurring thing that you hear that breaks your heart from a lot of these kids? What is it? Is it that they, I mean, like the fear thing that something's going to happen to them or they're going to end up in jail? What is it that shocks you when you hear it come out of these kids' mouths?
I think you said it earlier, and I felt it was afraid that they're going to die young, or their closest friends or relatives are going to die young, and that's the number one thing that I see that breaks my heart. It's just like we shouldn't live in fear like that, especially in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Why is
Yeah,
that? Why does that still happen? So
right.
that's the number one thing that I see, and it actually when I hear it, it's the fuel. I think hearing it is the fuel that makes me want to, just keep on
Mhm,
going and
mhm,
just to kind of stop that, that
mhm.
fear. So yeah, that's the number one thing that I constantly hear all the time.
Tone, have you ever asked a group of kids? I've done this one, and it just never fails. I think I keep asking it, hoping that I'll get that group one day where no hands go up. But it has not happened yet. When I say, how many of you, and usually like, especially even in middle school, I'll say, how many of you have lost a friend or a relative to senseless gang violence or arbitrary violence, like a straight bullet or something where you just were in the wrong place? Every single hand goes up.
Yep.
When I was in middle school, I didn't know anything about a person dying until my granny died.
Wow.
I didn't know what crime scene tape looked like. You know, I didn't know what the sound of bullets and what to do, how to react and get
Yeah.
down and all that. And these kids live with this every single day. There were a group of girls. There were a group of girls. I want people to understand just what these kids deal with. Excuse me. There were a group of girls, three girls at this school that were in the group that did the video, and they lived like within 20 minutes of each other. And they would each come from wherever they were to one spot, and they stopped taking the regular buses and trains or L's or whatever to school because it was so dangerous.
Mhm.
And what they would do is they would leave an hour and a half earlier than they would before so that it would work for the collective, all three girls. And then I said, well, what's the craziest part about your journey to and from school every day? Because they would leave, they'd get up at 4 in the morning to get ready so they could leave an hour and a half early. They needed to be at school at 7:30. Then they have after school programs so that they can secure their spot in a job for the summer. So
Wow.
they don't get out of that until 5. And then by the time they get back home, it's usually 8:30. They have to have dinner, then do their homework. But that wasn't even the crazy part. Here was the crazy part. I said, what's the thing that you would think nobody would believe when you tell them that you guys do in order to get to school every day? And they said there's one section where for 5 blocks it is so dangerous on both sides of the street with drug trafficking, sex trafficking, all kinds of things. We have our backpacks. We could lose our lives if somebody thinks there's something of value in that. And if you walk past them and you don't acknowledge them, they think you're uppity. They think, oh, you don't see me, and they get all in your face.
Yeah.
Or if you say something or smile or give them eye contact, they take that as you're interested because it's a no-win situation. So we walk down the middle of the street on the yellow lines. They walk down the middle with traffic going past them in both directions because they said it's
Wow.
the safest spot for them to cover those 4 or 5 blocks that they need to get from the bus to the L to get to school.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you are you familiar with the story of the Little Village Lawndale High School?
No, tell me about it.
So it built, I want to say, um, 10 plus years ago. It's a newer school, but what happened was the mothers and the grandmothers in that area their kids had to walk in little village far to go to hide their local school. And unfortunately, it was in between several gang locations. So walking to
Mm.
school was dangerous. So the mothers had put on a hunger strike in a field where there was promised to be a school built there one day, but there was never it never was there was no construction. Nothing ever came of it of the promise. So the mothers and the grandmothers went on this piece of land and did a hunger strike. And I believe at the time, I want to say Mayor Rahm Emanuel, or it could have been Dave. I think Rahm Emanuel. He um, he listened to these people, these mothers, and eventually, like less than a year or two later, they started construction in that and built that high school. And in the middle of the high school, so the high school, I think it's like several different schools in one, but the middle all leads to this like almost like this like more this center area that's kind of calm, kind of like you can go sit there, and that's in memory of where the people who sat in hunger strike, that was for them, that's where
Wow.
they sat. And when I went to go speak at that school, actually, they had a program for at-risk kids, that the person who did the tour around the school told me that, and I thought, wow, that's a powerful story, but it's also inspiring because it shows you what we can do
What we
if
can
we
do.
if we come together, make some noise, and we just provide more resource. Because earlier you asked, there's pimps, there's drugs, there's gamings. What can we do? We got to make it as easy accessible for them to do the positive stuff
As
as it
it
is
is.
for that. They got
That's
to
where
walk
my
out their front door and be like, boom, I want to walk into that rec center, that entrepreneur resource center, as
right,
opposed to hanging out with those guys. So it has to be.
right,
You don't have to take 10 buses and trains just to go, to go get away from it all. It can happen
right,
in your own backyard.
right.
So
So
yeah,
Tone, let me ask you, because you grew up with some of these same challenges, right?
yep.
Did anyone ever attempt to recruit you into something that could have led you down a wrong path that could eventually have cost you your life?
There were instances where that came up, but I think the way I grew up, my dad was, like I mentioned earlier, he was in that lifestyle, so he nipped it everything in the butt when I
He
was
was in which lifestyle? The gang stuff?
yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
as he exited the lifestyle, he I was a little kid. He said, "You know what? When I raise my family, make sure that they're far away." So, my dad was 15 or 16 when I was born. So he was pretty young. He was hip to everything. So even if I hinted that I wanted to hang out with any of these type of people, he was on top of it. I remember one day I was riding my bike in my neighborhood, and I stopped at the corner because somebody asked me a question. Game Anger asked me a question,
mhm.
and my dad just rode past. And just for stopping on that street corner, I almost got a butt whooping. So, yes, there were instances in schools where you join,
Wow.
how it works is typically in Chicago high schools or grammar schools, you kind of join a clique that's considered, it's like a crew, but that crew technically rides under a bigger gang. So
Mm,
that's how the recruiting process start. Hey, you want to be in this crew at this school, but then the leader of that crew is involved in that gang. So that's how they
right.
start recruiting softly. It's like soft recruiting. But
Soft recruiting.
yeah, because it starts off there. You start off doing little things. You start rolling with the clique in your grammar school, your high school, and then next thing once everything's over, you're a little older now. You're actually in the gang now. You transition into the gang. Like, oh, how did this happen?
And sometimes without even knowing.
Yeah, because you were rolling with this crew in school, doing stuff in the hallways, and it only happened during school hours. But then eventually, now when you transition from grammar school to high school, you go, no, no, no,
Whole
you gotta
different world.
whole different. You gotta make a decision on if you're with this or you're not with this. And I think that's how a
So you're
lot of
being
them,
groomed.
exactly, you're being groomed.
When
You're
we
being groomed.
come back from break, Tone, I want to talk about. I want you to help us put some tips out there. What family members, friends, loved ones, parents, siblings, whatever, aunties, uncles. What are some of the things we can look for in the middle schoolers and teenagers around us that may tip us off that something's going on that we might want to try to nip in the bud. We'll talk about that when we come right back, you guys. Don't go away.
lose control. Made me feel like there was no tomorrow. Should've told you that you're beautiful, but the days pass and now it's so long ago. Did you make it? Did you break free? Did you manage to be who you wanna be? Maybe somewhere you think about me too. I wonder where are you now? Wonder where are you now? Wonder where are you now? Would you know my name? Would you know it? And did you feel the same? Wonder where are you now?
Excuse me, don't you see my hand hanging out here? I like it a little bit more too. Thank you. Ain't that right? Hey, you got to be on a date. Did you see what he did? He ran right over to their table and walked past me like I'm not even here. Anyway, we're here tonight. Thank you for sticking around. Welcome back to Bathrobe Moments After Dark. I'm your host, Loren Michaels Harrison. Tonight, my guest is none other than Tone Fernandez. Tone, let's talk about some warning signs. You grew up watching all these things happen. We're talking about how the streets are grabbing our kids at an alarming rate and things to talking about solutions tonight. Things we can do, like what Tone is doing. We're going to get into it here in a minute. The Entrepreneur Resource Center, one of his dreams that he's in the process of building and getting opened up so kids can come and have a place to learn how to be their own entrepreneur. And he also helps people on social media. We're going to talk some more about that. But right now, tell us, what do you think the top three things that parents, family members, loved ones, neighbors, you remember the day when we were little? I know in my world, I'm 58. I snuck into a theater once and thought I'd gotten away with it and came out and there was Mrs. McLean from church driving by. Almost ran into a bus. Before I could even get home, wasn't no cell phones back then. I got home. My mom was waiting at the screen door with it locked, with her hand behind her back. And you know what that meant. As soon as she opened the door, I was trying to, what's behind your back? That's what it was like. There were people in our community who looked out for us. It's not really like that nowadays. People don't want to get involved. So what do you hear? What do you feel? What's the word on the street as far as what kind of things should be warning signs? What do you think the top three warning signs are that your kid or your loved one, your teen, might be headed in the wrong direction?
I think number one is the first sign, especially in school, is when they start tagging little symbols on their notebooks. Tag, little gang signs, little things like that. That means that they're being influenced by someone else.
Now, I
So,
wouldn't, listen, hold on. That's a good one. Now, if I looked at somebody's number, I go, okay. How would we know it's a gang sign? Is it something? I guess if you live in the city,
well,
you
yeah,
see it on things.
if you live in the city, you're gonna see the symbols, and you can Google certain symbols. You can literally take a picture of a
Take a
symbol.
picture of the notebook and
Yeah,
go and do your research.
yeah, go and do your research. So that's number one.
Okay.
The second thing is, a lot of these smaller gangs try to mimic these crews, try to mimic bigger gangs. So they do violations. So they beat you up into the gang. 15-second violation. So if your kid comes with black eyes or bruises, you got to start asking questions. That was back in the day when we were young. It was like our parents used to, why you got that bruise? Who are you hanging out with? And then the other one is, be observant when they do get in trouble in school. And I always say, look who they're with, because you can spot, if you see their friends at school, who they're hanging out with. And that's where it's hard for single mothers, because you can't make it to school all the time. So you have to have just extra eyes and ears out there. How my family grew up, we always had somebody that was going to the school to pick up the kids,
See?
whether it be me, whether it be, somebody else, and who are they hanging out with, and you got to be observant. And then they would report back to our parents, hey, he's hanging out with that one kid, and that one kid's
Yeah.
family
And he's
is,
trouble.
yeah. So those are the three things to look out for. If you look for them, you'll find it. And
Mm.
and then honestly, other than that, you just got to look at their behavior. Do you see a trend? Kids getting in trouble constantly in school. Okay, where do we what's the reason for this? And you just got to nip it in the bud at the beginning. But like I said,
No,
it's hard for people with one parent in the household or
yeah,
two
single
parents.
parent, right? Because you're trying to work, you be tired, your feet
Yeah.
hurt, you're worried about the bills and this that, and the other, but you still need to have some kind of a system. And you can, and that's what I love about what we're going to talk about next. Your entrepreneur resource center. But before we get into that, let me just ask you this final question about the kids. Um, what about kids that are good kids through and through, but they're being bullied into? Because a lot of kids, you don't have to be willing. Oh, pick me. I want to be in a gang. That isn't necessarily just the kids they get. They can bully and intimidate a smart kid into, either you come with us or we're gonna hurt you, or we're gonna hurt somebody in your family, we're gonna burn your house down, or whatever it is. What about depression? Do you find anything like that when you're working with kids, where parents talk about she's just not the same? Something happened. She just isn't how she was in the last couple of weeks or months. She just doesn't seem like the same kid. Do you hear those kind of things? And when we hear those kinds of things, what's the first thing you think we should do?
Well, honestly, that anytime you see it, taking toll mentally on the children, that's when you need to intervene. And then the parent has to like step back and then go to the school or wherever it's at and intervene with like the principal, the teachers, because believe it or not, the teachers actually know and see a lot of that going on. And sometimes they assume they have like 30, 40 kids in the classroom, they assume that the
Mm,
parents know. So I think that just intervening, because there have been instances where I've seen a parent who their children was going through something similar, either bullying or something, and the school kind of brushed it off. Oh, it's just part of, it's just part of how they grow up. This is how kids are. But the
mm-hmm.
mother, even though she was a single mother, she was adamant. She forced her will on the school and said, no, we're gonna sit down and have this talk, principal, teacher. And then that turned into principal, teacher, the other kids who were doing it, their parents. And that intervention there stopped it right then and there and allowed those kids to back off, because they showed that mother was not playing around with her
She
kids.
wasn't playing.
It's just
Oh, come on,
intervention.
Clint. You'll walk
Yeah.
over, but you'll limp back.
Yep.
Yeah, she wasn't playing with him. Now listen, and I need your help on this. I really do. I'm sincere about this. We have a kid in our family, a young adult, was once a brilliant kid. I mean, I remember when this kid was, without using his name, was like 10 years old, and he wasn't just a safety. Remember those
Yeah.
safeties? I called him a safety when I saw his little orange thing. He goes, I'm not a safety, uncle. What did he say? He goes, I'm a conflict moderator. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I'm a conflict moderator. I go out on the playground, and when kids are fighting or they have a disagreement, I'm the one who gets them to look at it a better way. And
Right.
how are you going to resolve it? And now, on the 4th of July, this kid, he's got a lot of issues with his parents are divorced now, and family things. And, he bought this Jag used, and he was picking on everybody on the 4th of July. Came and went, big fight with everybody. Said something, would stop and stand around corners just waiting to see if they're gonna talk about me when I leave. And then pulling out in traffic, not even looking, stuff like that. And we were all like, see, he ain't gonna stop till he gets in the car and kills himself. 1 week later, 3 o'clock in the morning. His car is on Facebook right now. It was completely cut in half.
Oh
He
wow.
crawled out of it into a field and was able to call 911. He had a ruptured spleen, which is now dead. The spleen is dead. A hole in his liver, 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, had to have a blood transfusion, had surgery, all these things. His diet will be different for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And he's saying on social media, I have a new lease on life. Watch what I do with it. And I'm praying, oh Lord, please, please, please. I'm just asking because, we sat there, we were all pissed off. He was so disrespectful. He was this. And you almost want to just throw your hands up. But when I look at that car and I say, that's my nephew. If he were to die like he could have died last weekend, it would kill my sister.
Yep.
It would absolutely kill. I said, she just lost her husband to suicide 2 weeks before COVID.
Wow.
She couldn't handle another one. So my thing is, what about those kids that just you can't tell them shit? What do you do? I mean, a lot of people say just pray for them. Just pray for them. But I mean, if you do you have anyone? I think most of us have. When I say that, who did you see somebody in your mind that's headed that way? That sounds just like Dirk.
Yeah.
That sounds just like Brianna or whatever. Um, because nowadays the kids, because of these devices and stuff, that's a weapon.
Yep.
So what do you have to say about something like that? Because I don't want to be one of those people that's waiting until the kid in our family dies before we have the conversation. What's your recommendation?
I mean, honestly, the only there's no system, there's nothing that's 100 proof. Like, there's nothing that works 100%
Mm,
of the time.
good point.
And what we realize, in our type of industry, when you help the community, you're just trying to be there to get the kids you know who can be helped. And for everybody else, you still provide an environment for them to come. You still provide resources for them, but like you said earlier, it's up to them to do their. I always tell people, I can give you 100% of me, but you got to meet me halfway. You know,
Mm,
so when it comes to somebody like your net, yes, I've had exact same issue. I had actually my uncle growing up. He was giving my grandmother a hard time, and he lived with my grandmother. Same thing, same exact story. Good guy, but just was headed with the wrong crowd. And then one day, hanging out with the wrong people, his car gets rammed into. He flips, several times, almost died. And from that point on, was like his wake up. And I think that on what
did it
happens is
work?
a lot of yeah,
Did he
he
wake
he
up? Did he change?
he changed. He woke up. So a lot of time, it
There you
does
go.
take a traumatic experience, for them to be like, wow, this is. And if they don't,
Just like that. Yeah.
and here's what I've seen too, and I see it reoccurring a lot. If
Okay.
the person ignores that first sign, like that traumatic sign, like they get arrested,
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
beat up,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not soon after is when they get, something even bigger happens that they
Even
start to
because they
come
had
back
that
from.
chance.
They had that. It's almost
Something
like
was
God
trying to
knows.
slow him down.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, so I mean, like I
Wow.
said, you can't do nothing but just provide. Sometimes I do tell people we have we have that effect. Even sometimes I have it myself where you hear your parents so much, and you're like, all right, mom, but then your auntie comes and tell you the same thing, your uncle, you're like, all right, I'll listen to you. So sometimes I tell parents,
Right.
try somebody else, So
Send someone
that's
else
one of
in.
the angles that I would take is,
That's a smart
yeah, send
move.
someone else in because they're just tired of listening to you, and maybe somebody they look up to, because a lot of times there's one person in that kid's life that he listens to no matter what. Could be a grandparent, could be a teacher at school that he respects, and just sometimes using a
Good
third
point.
party coming in
And
talking to
know
them.
who it is and send them
Yeah.
in. That's a great
Yep.
point. That's a great point. Thank you for that. Let's switch gears here for a moment and tell us about you self-profess that you help people on social media. Um, how exactly do you help people on
Yeah.
social
So
media?
I have a coaching program where I teach home-based businesses, especially people who are new, how to generate leads online. So what I do is I take them through a simple process. Process number one is we refine their social media accounts and just say, what are you saying on these things, right? Because a lot of times when people start businesses, they're like, you know, they mention their product up and down, left and right, and it really does has no effect. Nobody goes on Facebook just to say I'm going to buy something.
Right.
So we start with their content, right? And then
Hmm.
from there, once their content is good, it's adding value, it's entertaining, and then we go to the next process where it's like, okay, now that you have good content, how are you going to attract people to raise their hand and say, I'm actually interested in what you're talking about? And
Right.
then from that point, we go to phase two, which is build list building, which is creating an email follow up list, which is making sure that you have processes set up where your clients can easily, potential clients can click and you can turn them into real leads. So it's honestly meeting the client where they're at, and then
Yeah.
transitioning to them getting leads online and people interested.
Oh,
It starts, with the content. It starts with me showing them and developing them on how to do that. And then from that point on, we just keep on refining the process. I have people that I'm coaching who already know how to do good content, but they have no process after the content. It's just like, well, I hope somebody reaches out to me. So I say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
let's just tweak this process here. Why don't you add a call to action at the end of your videos or
Call
the
to
end of your
action,
post?
right?
And then from that point on, you can tell them to click here, and then from when they click there, they can enter their name and info, and then boom, now they're on your lead list. Now you can follow up with them until they're ready to buy. So it's just refining that process, getting the person wherever phase they're at, and then coaching them along the way so that they can
Now,
start generating leads.
all right. Now I know a lot of people are very intimidated by that kind of stuff, and we'll go out and let somebody cheat us. Oh, I can make this for you. I can do this. It's happened to me several times. Because I don't know it. I don't know. I don't know fit from Shinola. And and so talk about that. How do you help people get past that mindset that I'm not very techy. I don't know how to do this because when you talk social media, people are like, but I still use a flip phone.
Mhm.
How easy can it be for a person? And how important is being consistent in your success, your overall success?
Well, one thing is we have resources in the form of trainings where we literally show you how to do it. So I literally went on the computer myself and I show you step by step how to set up whatever I talk about. I usually have a how-to video of how to set it up. So that's number one. Number two is we do implementation sessions. So
Mhm.
let's say like I meet somebody online and they're like, "Hey Tone, can you help me?" And they're in Vegas or something. They live in Vegas. I live here. We'll go on Zoom and I'll tell them to share their screen, and then I'll walk them through some steps as well. And then lastly, like you said about consistency, that's all I preach. I say, listen, I even tell I set the expectation. I say, let's say you're my client. Hey, Lauren, don't think that one video, one post is going to do it all. You have to make sure that you're consistent because the first phase of you posting good content online is
Yeah.
everybody's looking like side eye, like okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then
We'll see
once you
how
become
long this shit lasts.
that's exactly what they're thinking. And
Right.
once you become consistent, I always tell people with good content, you become an authority in your niche. And
Mm.
that's when people want to make that step and do business with you. They
You're
say, okay,
believable.
yeah, you're like,
Right.
okay, he's adding value, he's not pitching. And it's so simple as far as the first few steps, and it's exciting to see like people get their first lead, like, hey,
Sure.
somebody reached out to me, or hey, and like I said, the people who are not tech savvy, there's a process. We have resources for them, so they can just learn the steps and how to do everything, on their own.
Okay. What do you say to this pushback? To this, because I preach this one all the time. Even before COVID, when I was actually standing on stages, will that ever happen again? I hope so. Anyway, the assassin, the smallest word that's killed the most people is TOO. Too. Oh, it's too hard, too expensive. It takes too much time. I'm too busy. Two. Now, I want to ask you, what about somebody like me who feels like, well, my first question is, okay, how am I supposed to afford you when I need to do this stuff to make the money to afford you?
Well, I always tell people that the investment part of your business, it's you can't. A lot of people try to get rich off zero investment online, and those are the people that typically
Oh,
fail. You have to come
say
up
that
with
again. Say that again.
a lot of people try to get rich off no investment. That's why so many people play the lottery. They want to pay the $2 tickets to make 6 million. You have to invest that, and
You got to have skin in the game.
yeah, you have to have skin in the game. I
You have to
remember,
have the skin in the game.
yeah, and to be honest with you, when you do invest, you want to make that back so fast that you're like you value what you invested in.
Okay,
When you don't
so
invest,
here,
you don't value.
okay, so here it is. I'm calling, I'm saying, Tone, I heard what you said last night on the show and all. And you know what? I'm interested. I need to do better. How can you help me? Take me through it.
Okay,
What's
well
the
let me.
first thing we're going to do?
I find out their why and their pain. So I would say, hey Lauren, let me ask you a question. Why do you even want to start a business? Because I'm gonna try to talk you out of it
What if
because
I
you're
already
like,
have the business?
no, yeah, I'm gonna ask you why you're doing it. Or why are you
Okay.
doing this, right? And then once I find out why, I dig into okay, what are you struggling with? And once I find out what you're struggling with, then I ask you a few questions, series of questions. How long are you willing to put up with this? Okay, how has this impacted you and your family? Man, I'm broke and da, da, da. And when I dig into that pain, that's all I'm gonna use when you try to give me pushback. So you're gonna say, "Hey, Tone, you know what? Yeah, that's too much time. That's too much this. You know what, Lauren? Let me
See,
ask you a
too much.
question. How how bad do you want to get out of your current situation?" And then that's where I gauge if I work with them or not. Man, I really want to get out this so bad. So do you think that this investment of, $50 is worth it or not? Do you think that 50 the only thing standing in your way is you
Is that a
investing?
real number?
I'm just doing some of the, some of the
See,
programs that
what's
we
the
have.
real number?
Well, it's
I'll call you
customizable,
tomorrow because I want to know what the real number is. I'm
but
not bullshitting. I'm keeping it real. I need that.
well, I'm honestly, you're probably ahead of 99% of people just by just having the show. So, if you're
Well, I
having
need to do
trouble with
better
leads, we
because
just need a call to action at the end of this.
I just need to know. I need to learn how to do better.
Okay.
What I love about people like you and what you offer people like me is that once we decide, yeah, this is great, but it can be greater.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little bit smart, but I want to be smarter. There are people like you out there that have opportunities. Now, what stops a lot of us is that
Mhm.
the eyebrow of suspicion,
Yep.
because we've been burnt. So, how do we know that a person like Tone is the right place to go? Because there is no shortage of marketers on social media saying, making promises to us that we're going to help you be the next big thing. So, how do people ascertain the forest from the trees, Tone?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. To be honest with you, the number one way is how you show up or how I show up daily. I constantly show up on my Facebook feed. I constantly show up on my private groups, and I add more value than than actually receiving an income. So, for example, before I even charge somebody for something, they've already received value that has brought them a result. And I think that if somebody,
Mm,
and this is a
mm.
concept from a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vaynerchuk,
Gary V.
he has this thing called jab, 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 right hook. And what
Yeah.
jab, jab, jab means online is you add value, you add value, you add value. And what happens is when you have an offer, then people are most likely going to take that offer. But if you're just throwing right hooks left and right, offer, 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 and people don't know you from
Sell, sell, sell,
the guy
sell,
next door,
sell.
people don't even know you, you're trying to sell them, then there's no trust. So with social media, it has allowed us to add value. So every week, every day, I'm on my whiteboard, I'm in my private Facebook group, I'm on things, hey, these are 3 tips to do this, 5 tips to do that. And what happens is I get people inbox me, man, that actually worked. Here's a free training. I'm giving free trainings away, and those are my lead magnets, right? But they've already gotten a result from my program without paying a dollar.
Without
Now,
paying a dime. And
now
you
they
know
want
what?
to
You're
pay me.
absolutely right about that because I wrote it down like 14 minutes into the conversation tonight. Adding value. You said it and it meant something to me. I'm not kidding you. I wrote it down. It's right
Yeah,
here on the thing in the box. Adding value because that is the most important thing. I am a firm believer. If you
yeah,
just keep, even when they're not buying, just keep adding value, keep adding value, keep
yeah,
adding value, and it will come. If you build it, it will come, and it's based on a value mindset. That
yeah.
that comment, that promise is based on a value mindset. So, how do people get started reaching out to you? What do they need? What kind of information do they need to have that discovery call with you?
Well, it's pretty simple. Number one is, I want to know what platforms you're growing on. I want to know what is your current process and what has been successful for you. So how are you currently getting leads? What's your audience size? I think a lot of people don't realize, trying to sell people on Facebook, but you only have like 500 friends.
Right.
So what's your audience size? What kind of content are you currently posting? And
Okay.
then what are your goals? Are they realistic or are they, unrealistic? Like, are you trying to make $1 million by 2 weeks, or are you trying to just get your first lead online?
A lot of
So,
people build wide instead of building deep.
mhm,
Build deep first, great roots, and then go out. Yeah, I get it. That's great. That's
so we
great.
just
Keep
want to
going.
find out where they're currently at, what their processes are, and then also it's not only a qualifying call for me. I'm qualifying them as well. Like if I want to work with them, because one of the things
Say that.
when I left the job, I stopped working with people that I don't like. So I have a chart that says, hey, is this person going to be more hassle than anything, or this person is the type of person I like to work with?
Yes, Jesus. Let me tell you something. When I work, especially with my coaching clients, when I get off a discovery call and they're all geeked up and ready to go, I'm gonna tell you what I do. I sit right here in this chair and I close my eyes and I picture myself in a car, my car, with them for 12 hours straight. Could I go 12 hours in a car with this person?
That's a great.
If I could, I can work with you. If I start there and in 2 seconds I go,
Like, no, no, no.
this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and then
Seriously,
you gotta. I always weed the people out who are looking for get rich quick kind of.
something quick, right now.
Yeah,
Gotta
like,
have it
oh,
right now.
this is a process. We're developing a process. Yes, can I get you a lead? Yeah, we can get you leads probably by later today, but as far as like, getting to that big result by next week, it's gonna take a process.
It
And
is. And you know why that's so important? And I know you get it. I tell people all the time. Listen, don't get it twisted. I don't need your credit card. I don't need your routing number. You know what I really need from you? I need your testimony. I
Man,
need your
that's
testimony.
huge.
And when I messed with Loren, when I worked with Loren, look at all that happened.
Yep.
That's what I want. And if you're not going to help make me more successful by being successful yourself, I'm not trying to give you an old watch at the end of 20 years like you used to think 40, 50 years ago
Yep.
of 20 years of service because you helped build my dream and put braces on every kid in my family's mouth. That sort of thing. No, I want to see you get to where you say, Lauren, I got to go out. I'm sorry. I got to start my own shit. I got to go. And that's what I want. Yay. I want you to learn how to move through this, what I'm doing, to get to what it is you need to do. So,
That's
in conclusion, real quick, tell us about the Entrepreneur Resource Center. What can we do to help make that a reality? And where should people go to continue the dialogue with you? We've got the Social Lead Club on the screen, but we also have this one, Tone Fernandez, Tone.Fernandez.3.
yeah.
Which, go ahead.
Yeah, follow me on Facebook if you want to connect, talk about the Entrepreneur Resource Center.
Okay.
But in closing, what it is basically going to be an entrepreneur development center where kids can come learn different aspects of using media, how to prospect, sales, how to speak
Beautiful.
on stages. There's different parts of entrepreneurship that are little snippets. So we're gonna have volunteers come in, and each of those volunteers are gonna be teaching something important. Yes, Lauren, for sure. You're already on the
I
list.
told you, I'm not
You're
even
already on
playing.
the
I'm already there, dude, for real.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna have a soft launch virtual because I realized that with the schools not opening in fall, that I might as well start a virtual. So I
Might
may
as
do
well.
some, might
I
as well
feel
do
you.
something like this, and then just have a group of kids come on. So I'm gonna reach out to some of the centers, but it's just teaching kids entrepreneurship. And then the long term goal is just providing, resources for those kids who finish the program, grants, scholarships, business loans, so they can go and they can continue that, duplicating businesses and growing.
Yes. And create that life that we want for them. I just want to say thank you so much, Tone Fernandez, for joining us here tonight on Bathrobe Moments After Dark. And for all of you, the connectors are on the screen. There's one right there. I have another one. I'll throw it up as the show closes out. And Tone, you have a turnstile invitation, which means that anytime you have something new you want to bring, call me. We'll get you on here right away. I love what
Oh,
you're doing. And I want you guys to remember something. If you want to be a Tone, you want to be whatever it is, someone who makes a difference in this world, you really need to just do one thing at the start of every day. When you wake up and your feet hit the floor, find your way to the nearest mirror. It's right next to the toilet. Trust me, every bathroom has one. Look in that mirror because when you see the blessing, you now have increased your chances of becoming the blessing. Take that with you tonight. And join us next week. That's who I got on the show next week. Next Wednesday night, I got Rose Hill and Charlie. They were on America's Got Talent, dancing and stuff around. Yeah, she's a makeup artist who's Oscar nominated, this and the other out in Hollywood. And we're going to have a good time next week right here on Bathrobe Moments After Dark. The Tone, keep doing what you're doing. Please let me know when you do this virtual thing. I'm there. Anything I can do to be of service, you got it, my man. Love it. Thank you so much.
thank you guys.
Okay, everybody, God bless you. Get out there and do what we do. Love up on everyone you can. And remember, in order to be a legacy, all you have to do is every opportunity and every person that you encounter every day, every single day, leave it a little bit better than the way you found it. And you will be a legend. And that's a promise. Good night.